Yo, B, what's up with the camera?
This for the gram.
Can't be recording around here. What?
For the gram.
What?
This for the gram. For the gram.
Located approximately 20 miles east of New York City is a relatively small village that was formed and founded in the year 1643. After a lengthy negotiation between some English settlers / colonizers and several of the area's Indian tribal leaders, this locale of Long Island called Hempstead was formed. Today, this area has developed into the most populous village in the state of New York, with a population in excess of 50,000 people, all crammed in an area of 3.7 square miles. The population density is about 15,000 people per square mile, almost 4 times that of its neighbor on its northern border, Garden City, close to twice the density of Uniondale, its other direct neighbor to the east, and about twice the density of all of Queens County, New York. The stead, as it's often called, also consists of several areas or hoods that are distinct in character. Originally, there were 2 known sides of town, the Heights and the Hills. The Heights is the area east of Clinton Street and west of Westbury Boulevard. The Hills was just about everything else except for Terrace, which is its own thing. Terrace Ave is one long block filled with apartment buildings on both sides of the street, with the Bedell Street side of Terrace known for being the roughest. And then there's Parkside, which is technically the Hills, located in the area around Camel Park and the Camel Park projects. The projects have since been torn down and replaced by townhouses. I was from the Hills, and in my era, the era of the 70s and 80s, the racial makeup of the village was roughly 30% white, 65% black, and 5% other. Today's demographics are like 10% white, 42% black, and 48% Hispanic. During the wave of immigration that started happening in the mid to late 90s, many Hispanics migrated to Long Island and a large number settled in Hempstead. Hempstead became one of the first Long Island communities that had to deal with the Salvadorian gang MS-13, on top of their ever-growing blood and Crip problem that had begun to take hold. These issues have contributed to Hempstead's high crime rate as compared to other communities in the area. But it was back in 1989 that the first part of this story began. Approximately 12 p.m. on Wednesday, June 14, 1989, when a young woman's body was discovered by 2 custodians working the grounds of Hempstead High School. They found her lying face down in a creek under a footbridge located behind the school. By police accounts, the initial investigation at the scene showed that the victim's clothes were in disarray, and it was believed that she was sexually assaulted and strangled. Later, an autopsy would reveal the presence of semen. The evidence was collected and put into the nationwide DNA database. The young woman was identified as Dorothy LeConte, a Haitian immigrant who arrived in the States 6 months earlier seeking the American dream. She wanted to become a beautician or a computer specialist. Authorities believe Miss LeConte was attacked while walking to the home of her relatives who lived only a few blocks away from the location where she was found at. A detective from the Nassau County Police Department's homicide squad stated that the victim, Miss LeConte, was walking up President Street heading south toward Peninsula Boulevard when she was accosted and dragged to the bridge behind the school. She was wearing black high-top sneakers, a blue denim miniskirt, and a light-colored blouse. She was found with her book bag lying beside her, and family members said a gold chain and a ring that she'd been wearing were missing. The police had no suspects, no witnesses, and no leads. The case ended up going cold and stayed that way for over 20 years. March 19th, 2009, just 3 months shy of the anniversary of Dorothy LeConte's murder, a young woman was found beaten, stabbed, mutilated, and killed in her home in Westbury, New York. The woman was only 24 years old and a mother of 2. By that time, I had already moved away from Long Island, but I would always stop and pay attention whenever I heard or read news about my old stomping grounds. Even though this crime happened in Westbury, I was still curious because Westbury is close to my hometown of Hempstead. It's like 5 or 6 miles away. But what really drew me to the story was when I saw the victim's picture in the newspaper. I said to myself, I know that girl. For a short time I had lived across the street from her grandmother, and I used to see her and her other brothers and sisters there every day. They practically lived there. For a long time I think they did live there. Her name was Joanna Bird. When the police finally caught her killer a few days later, I recognized him also. I'd seen him over her grandmother's house. It was her ex-boyfriend, Leonardo Valdez Cruz. Even after they caught him, I continued to follow Joanna's story. I wanted to see how the trial would play out, what kind of sentence her killer would receive, plus her family was gearing up to sue the Nassau County Police Department. They had made claims that the police was partly responsible for her death. The then Nassau County Police Commissioner, Lawrence Mulvey, said in an internal investigation revealed that 7 officers, including the patrol supervisor, failed to take proper action during domestic violence visits to the home where Bird lived. Bird's family lawyer, Fred Brewington, said that police waited too long before entering the crime scene and that Bird could have been saved had they intervened sooner. This argument between the family's lawyer and the representatives of the Nassau County Police Department went on for months and was eventually settled a couple of years later, with the Bird family coming out victorious. Still, it doesn't bring Joanna back, but if it brings her family some type of closure, God bless them. My deep condolences. At the time though, while browsing through a local Long Island newspaper looking for the updates, I came across the headline, "Upstate man charged in 1989 Hempstead killing," with the suspect's picture plastered underneath. I paused for a moment and stared at the picture. Like with Joanna's photo, I knew who this guy was. He lived 3 houses down from her. He would walk past her house daily and talk with her, her other siblings, as well as me on his way to the corner store. I couldn't believe it. He seemed to be a mild-mannered, cool individual, but I guess you can't ever say you really know someone. On Tuesday, September 19, 2009, a little more than 20 years after the crime was committed, Joey Bethea was formally charged with the rape and murder of Dorothy LeConte.